listening to It Came From the Radio. You know this is Jennifer Elise Feldman, aka Dr. Feldy, aka Felds, aka some names that can't be mentioned on the FCC regulated radio. I'm here with filmmaker Aaron Murtagh and Irina Arnaut. And she came here from another country. You know, we have a very exotic guest today, and we're going to discuss Gary, a film they made together. Irina wrote it, I believe, and Aaron produced it. I'm sure they worked on it all together. It's a big mishmash, hard to credit people, but they are here right now. Welcome. Hello.
Hi.
So, getting right into it, the film Gary, you're going to sum it up better than me, I'm sure. What's this all about?
Mhm.
I watched it 4 times.
Oh, 4 times. Wow.
I watched it four
Ooh,
times on my phone. So, don't give me full
perfect.
credit, but I did watch it 4 times.
Yeah. I don't have a TV actually, so I watch a lot of things on my phone or computer or iPad. Sorry. That's just how I do it. But the Gary's about an artist couple who make a living by moonlighting as contract killers. And they hate the name Gary. That's the log
Exactly.
line.
Yeah, that's okay. That's pretty much what I got, but it took me a little while because things are kind of subtle in this film. And I guess I'll ask right about that. You don't have actors screaming out the keywords, which I actually highlighted the keywords for my next question so we can follow along and like see the meaning. I don't think the meaning was like crazy overt. Was there reasons why like things were kind of done like, oh, no big deal. There's no sound effects with like a dead bodies on screen. It's kind of just, oh, just another day, very casual. Is there a reason that you chose to do things subtly like that? Not so in your
Um,
face?
yeah, absolutely. There's a reason. Can I articulate that reason? Let's see.
Haha.
But the film is, I really want to focus on them as their ambitions as artists. And, they don't make a lot of money. They don't come from money. So and clearly they have questionable morals. So
Mhm.
for them, it is kind of another day. They're not really focusing on the job or their feelings about the job. They don't have any feelings about the job. They just want the money. And they're really more interested in making art and becoming successful artists. It's a means to an end for them. And obviously, like the contract killer genre is very full. And so I thought one way to participate in it is to uh, focus more on them as individuals, as artists, as a couple, than
Mhm.
maybe the like grotesque nature or, questionable moral nature of their job.
Yeah, I would actually like to see like a secondary with more of that. I don't know. I think it's a cool
Well,
topic. All right.
it is a proof of concept for a feature. So in the feature, there is murdering happening. I
There we
just finished
go.
the script actually.
Oh, okay. So, all right, here we go for the radio people that haven't seen it 4 times now. In the trailer, one of the main characters is an art creator of some kind and is discussing with another coworker in the desert and says, "Oh, did you see that Wendy's dropping out of the Whitney Biennial?" And the partner says, "Why?" He says, "Well, one of the museum's donors is a warlord or something. So this woman they work with doesn't want to work with a warlord." And I kind of passed over because they just say it so casually. But when I came back 3 days later, 4 days later, thinking about the film, basically, this commentary proceeded. It's preceded by a commentary about who do you think can afford to buy the art they're making. Basically, there's like two very white worker bee people shooting odd photos in the desert, clearly doing other people's dirty work with a dead body, and they're being funded by at least one warlord. So, what is the significance, I guess, of this commentary that's it's just really fast?
Oh
Oh, look for a
yes.
warlord. No big deal.
So they're in the art world. I'm imagining them in New York, which is where I live. And my professional background's in the art world too. So these are actually based on conversations I've had. And a few years ago, the Whitney Museum does a biennial, which is a big art show, like American art, every 2 years. And a few biennials ago, there was a big controversy because I think someone on their board, I don't remember all the details of exactly who it was, but obviously, board members are comprised of like very wealthy people and influential people and people who are interested in the arts. And one of the people on the I believe, on their board. Um, but one of the influential Whitney people who had some authority was an arms dealer, I believe. And so when that was found out, a bunch of artists dropped out. And some of those artists I knew, and friends of mine knew. And so these are conversations we would have
Mhm.
where there's a kind of performative nature to dropping out. Not that I'm questioning people's intentions or anything like that,
Mhm.
but it is performative because obviously if you're an artist who sells at uh, any kind of major gallery, those art collectors are going to mostly be very wealthy people, as depending on the kind of work you're selling. But
Mhm.
not every day, not like a school teacher isn't going to come in to a gallery off the street and spend $30,000 on a painting, $50,000 on a painting. It's going to be someone very wealthy. And everybody kind of understands that that kind of wealth doesn't usually come from the most ethical source. So
Mhm.
they're just kind of discussing the hypocrisy of their friends while also at the same time being people who are extremely morally compromised. So,
Hmm.
they're kind of, I'm thinking of that conversation as both referencing their like very strong engagement in the New York City art world, and at the
Mhm.
same time, their kind of mutual understanding that they're implicated in this kind of hypocrisy, but maybe that implication isn't necessarily, I don't explore that too deeply, it's a short film, but where they stand on that kind of moral spectrum
Mm.
is compared to like some of their friends is maybe
Right.
more what they're talking about.
Or maybe they're even more moral than this Wendy. And as you said, it's just performative. And Wendy's really not that moral. And she's just like, oh, I don't want to work for a Warlord. Look at me. Look at me in my pretty
Totally.
cocktail dress. I'm so moral. I don't know. I don't know.
Totally.
Roseanne Barr said she wants to make America moral again. So just
Yeah.
that's a little side note. Wendy can join the moral movement. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Okay,
mean,
next.
I think, sorry, there's a big fire truck passing by. We'll see. No, it's going down the street. Okay. New York. So, I think that like what we expect of artists is for them to be really good, and we want artists and like creators and the people who we admire to be good people,
Mm,
and whose work inspires us. And so I think a lot of artists kind of, deal with that conundrum because to have
mm,
an art career that's what sustains your life,
mhm.
means kind of being implicated in a system that requires you to ignore maybe like you know these other things that you really care about, like
Right. Yeah.
warlords, and not
Yeah.
wanting to like be on the same in the same room with them. But I think probably a lot of people do find themselves in the same room.
Correct. Right. I have a friend who's an art therapist. She told me she was very active in the BLM movement. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are against the BLM movement who are, interested in buying her art. So it's kind of like, what
Totally.
is she going to do? All right. Next question. Kind of similar, but I like this topic. Now, we live in America. I do. Irina sort of did or whatever. But yeah, Aaron does. Anyway, just these are just little details. Let's not get caught up in them. Now, where most people have their basic needs met, that's the point here. Food, shelter, water. And once you have your basic necessities and a whole litany of recreational activities, you got the luxury to make art, whatever you call art is nowadays. Now, which is where we are in society now. I'm surrounded by it with an exploding population of people who want to be filmmakers and actors and comedians. Oh, especially in New York and Long Island for sure. You have your basic needs. You got pizza places everywhere. Everyone wants to be a filmmaker, an actor, a model, everybody. So if everyone is making art, who the heck is buying it?
Sure. I mean, that's a great question. Who's buying it? I mean, I do have some friends who are gallerists, and it kind of, you know, just like everything else, I feel like I'm going to say the word spectrum a lot.
Mhm.
There are, kind of younger galleries, and then there are more established galleries, and there are blue chip galleries. Blue chip galleries, you're going to have super wealthy people. And actually, I was just talking to a
Hmm.
producer friend who was talking about how not he was talking to someone else who's a finance bro, and this guy was saying that he really even though is he's not necessarily a collector, he really this finance bro monitors the art market,
Ah,
because essentially the art market is going to tell him if we're approaching another recession, because it's for very, very
ah,
wealthy people, art is a commodity, and if you feel secure about your finances, about your portfolio or whatever, you're going to be spending that money, a little bit extra money in art. And
ah,
so,
ah.
but that's like one end of the art market. And there's always dips, highs, and lows and everything. And then there are also people who just sell work out of their studio. There are a lot of people also, artists often trade their art. But nevertheless, even if you're going to an art fair where it's about, and if it's the affordable art fair or something, it's still an artwork is still going to be like $1,000 or something, and
Right.
like I don't know that many people who just have just $1,000 to just throw at an artwork. So it is kind of a unless they're trades, which again a lot of artists do.
Yeah,
Um, it is a signifier of kind of a disposable income. So
sure,
I think a lot of
definitely.
people do buy art and collect art. I mean, obviously
Oh yeah.
there are a lot of people who are really passionate about art and who aren't mega millionaires or billionaires, but depending on which kind of gallery you're looking at, it is going to be very wealthy people who want to invest, and they want to get that, like, this generation's Pollock or something like that, so that they can have $100 million painting in 25 years or something like that.
Yeah, I get it. I have a piece of art that someone gave me, and I don't want to give the person away, but basically, this family is linked to working with Northrop Grumman and major war machinery, and is a friend of mine. And another person who has art doesn't care about it as well. They really don't care about the history or any of the ethics of it. Also makes products that probably millions of people use and has expendable income. It doesn't care, it's just collecting it. So yeah, these are the people who buy art. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I mean,
so
a lot of
moving
our
on.
cultural, not it's not to bash millionaires and billionaires at all, though I'm sure we could sit around and bash certain things, but um, a lot of our cultural institutions exist in New York anyway because of very wealthy people who cared about art and cared about a certain kind of culture,
Mhm.
like Peggy Guggenheim, like all the founding of the Met, all it, it, it it's like they deserve the credit that they get for founding those institutions. But it to me that's really an interesting, also because money is such a taboo topic, so it's really interesting the way that
Mhm.
it's intertwined with art, because you know um it's just not a conversation that you ever have in art school, for example, something.
Right.
You have it in law school and in like finance
Yeah.
school. I'm guessing I didn't go, but uh, it's not like a conversation that artists have, like within the institutions
Yeah.
that we you know come
Yeah.
together in.
Yeah, I was an art minor at American University. There was no discussion on selling art. Now I'm going
No.
to switch topics entirely. We only got a few minutes left. Now, Gary, I want to get to Gary. Now, there's a car banter back and forth with the driver ranting about how much he's disgusted on a palpable, tangible level by the name Gary. Well, the other guy is like kind of likes the name. So, what inspired writing this dialogue? Where does this come from?
Well, it's based on true events, is all I can say.
Nice. Nice.
My husband and I, many years ago, before we were married, were taking a road trip, and I was feeling like super loopy on a road trip, as you do. And at a certain point, it just come to my head. I was like, Gary, what a terrible name. And then I think he just was like, okay, weirdo. But then maybe because he kind of was a little bit resistant at first to talking about it, I really wanted to push it. And so um, I just went on and on for like a week. We were on this very long cross country road trip, talking about how all the colorful feelings that this name elicited in me, and at a certain
I
point, it just
get
became
it.
a very funny conversation. And then actually, the rest of the film, minus the murdering, um, is based also on the events that unfolded on that road trip. So kind of if you
Okay.
recall people they later meet, uh yeah. I don't want to give it
And they're
away.
to well, I don't know if you sure spoilers, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's very funny because I feel kind of similarly, and I don't want to out any real Garys that I know in real life, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's a cursed name in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Since then, I've met an amazing guy named Gary who was so cool and great and lovely in every way, and he's really changed my mind. He was the individual that changed my mind about the name Gary. But before then, it was a
well,
very sincerely held belief.
yeah, I mean, they're definitely interesting people. I don't know a boring Gary, but moving on to a totally different question. It doesn't really have to do with your film, but you're in this world, so I gotta ask the question. Is Hollywood dead? Is
Is
Hollywood dead?
I mean, you tell me because I'm from the art world trying to get
Hmm.
into Hollywood, whatever that
Hmm.
means. That seems like the totally wrong time. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I do have my husband and I have another project that we've been working on that's kind of more TV related, and
Okay.
it has been stalled for ages. It would be like the
Mm.
easiest possible project to make and to
Hmm.
distribute, and it just seems like, you know, people can't sell stuff like even with like huge names attached. So, but I really don't have an insight into this world beyond kind of
Okay.
um anyone, beyond kind of a spectator.
Right. And one related question, since we have like a minute and a half left or 2 minutes. What is a celebrity in 2024?
Hmm. Aaron, hmm? Chime in.
What's a celebrity?
This year, today.
I mean, I think that we are in a moment in time where there's so much content or so much visibility for anyone and in any platform that celebrity really kind of relies on a fraction of a moment where one person is able to catch slightly more attention than anyone else. It's very, very different from maybe a time when we were growing up where someone could be famous and have a lot of eyes on them, like in a really powerful way. Now it's
Hmm.
just kind of, do you get 100 likes?
It's funny. It's weird. Interesting times now. All right, guys, we got to close out. I really found this film interesting. This is the second time this has happened where actually this has only happened consciously with Aaron's films. The Man Baby watched it, came back to it days later, had like a little different perspective, and this no third film, sorry, and this one too, watched it, came back to it. Someone had sent me a script. I read it while walking, slept on it. And sometimes, if you want to have some interesting perspectives, I feel like that sleep, whatever mysterious things happen in our sleep, no one's really figured it out yet. You can process the information and then have new ideas, whether it's a film, a script, or real life. That's my closing thought. So if you have a real life situation, which is much more important than art, I'm sorry, I think real life, we have to make sure we focus on this too and don't get lost in this metaverse. If you got a situation in real life, sleep on it. You'll come back to it and you'll come back just like I did with Gary with all of these thoughts. And I was like, oh, I get it now. It took me a little while to like get
Hmm.
the meaning. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I like what you're saying and very interesting. I'd love to see more. And please both tell us where to find Gary, where to find you, anything you want to promote, give us your socials.
So you can find me at my name on Instagram, but I spell it a little funny. It's my name, Irina Arnaut, but it's spelled, is it phonetically? Yereena dot Arenot. Anyway, I think that I spelled that right, but that's where my socials on Instagram. That's the only social media I have, and then that's linked to my Gary Instagram. And I have a bunch of screenings actually coming up. I have one coming up in Italy for some reason. If someone's in Italy, I have one in El Paso, Texas, at the El Paso Film Festival. I
Hmm.
have one coming up in Montana, at the Montana Film Festival, and I have one coming up in Canada where I'll also be the Montana and Canada one in Edmonton International Film Festival.
Wow, Gary's gonna get
So
a lot of celebrity. I don't know anyone else named Gary that's gotten this much attention. No, I'm just kidding.
Gary Oldman, also a cool
No,
guy.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, yeah. That's a bad joke.
Me? Oh, you know me. Jazzy returns on Insta. Very much looking forward to seeing Irina up here in Montana at her Montana premiere, and look for Gary at a festival near you.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Very interesting. And now for more, it came from the radio. Back
Thank
to you, Mark.
you.